All right, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks for coming to the meeting. We're really excited for this one. If you didn't know, if you couldn't tell by now, it's all about LinkedIn. And I've been talking about it all semester low-key, but I personally love LinkedIn. I think it's such a helpful resource. And it is really hard, though, coming into college if you don't know much about LinkedIn. It is a little daunting, to set up your profile and get connected with all these people. So whether you're in your first semester of college, whether you're in like in the middle of your senior year or about to apply for jobs, it's okay. You can make your LinkedIn profile whenever. But before we get started, obviously, like, as obsessed as I personally am and how much like we all talk about LinkedIn, we're not experts. It's just us kind of having a conversation and getting all of you thinking about how to make a profile, all the different features that you might not know about LinkedIn. So, and also really depends too, like what type of industry you're going into. Media is super broad, but if you're going into advertising, your profile might look a lot different than someone who wants to be a director and a producer. So these are just general tips. They're probably going to look a little bit different person to person. Like my profile looks a lot different than Annalise's, which looks a lot different than Alea's. And that's totally fine. This is not like the one way to make it. So take everything with like a grain of salt. And of course, the career centers are always a great resource to use. If you don't know, we have two great career coaches for the media school, Maria and Yasmin. They're great resources. You can schedule individual appointments. They do lots of like Zoom calls and like events throughout the semesters. If you want to like do something with them, they always help with resumes and your LinkedIn. So if you're still having some questions after this meeting tonight, definitely reach out to them. They're really, really helpful. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive right in.
All right, so profile pictures. So that's pretty much the first thing that you see of anyone on LinkedIn or any social media, really. It's the first thing that people see of you, so you want to make sure it's a good professional photo for LinkedIn. So you want it to kind of be like a clear shot of your face. You don't want it to be too dark, too far away. Mostly your face and maybe like chest up usually. You don't want a weird distracting background because then it can get confusing. And try and make sure it's like more professionally rather than a selfie. Just makes you seem a little bit more put together. Nothing against selfies, they all look great, but for LinkedIn, headshots work a little bit better. So here are kind of some do's and don'ts. You can see which ones kind of work a little bit better. Like this first guy, you don't, that could be any man or woman, I don't know. But like these guys can very easily see their face. Yeah, it's kind of easy to tell which ones are better and which ones aren't. So we're gonna play a fun little game called Is This a Good Profile Picture? It's a very creative name. So I'm going to put up a picture, and then if anyone wants to speak up and say if they think would work good on LinkedIn, tips that they could use to improve it, or perhaps like why it isn't great. So number one, we have Tasha, the new bachelorette. Spoiler alert if you're not caught up. Anyone want to give their thoughts on her beautiful profile photo?
I think it's great.
Yeah. You can easily see her face. It's not too far zoomed in or zoomed out. She looks beautiful. Number two, we have Robert Pattinson. Any thoughts on this one?
I'm gonna say no, because he looks super caught off guard, and like he just got back from a run.
Yeah, it's also like kind of pixelated. Yeah, the outfit isn't the most professional. The kitchen background, it's not really working for me. Yeah, it's a no for this one. Number three, we have Kermit the Frog. Any thoughts?
Kermit looks beautiful. That's a great headshot of him.
Yeah, good.
Maybe he should put on like a shirt though. Just a thought.
Yeah. Maybe put his little suit on.
Important note. Probably wear some clothes in your profile picture.
And the very last one, We have Baby Yoda. Any thoughts on this one?
Maybe not good because it's pretty dark, so harder to see his face.
Yeah. He looks super cute, but like you kind of have to squint when you look at it. He's not looking at the camera. I don't know if that's a requirement, but it's also like, I feel like that works better for me. But yeah. So, yep.
Yeah, and so if you like, that's why we have WiM headshots every fall. Just because I know it's somehow like when I first made my LinkedIn profile, I stressed out for like a solid day about like what photo to use because it is like a professional website, and I'm like I don't want to just use like a random like selfie. So I think it is hard sometimes like if you don't have headshots and you miss a headshot event or like it's just you could have anybody like take your photo if you miss headshot events or you don't have a headshot prior to like making your LinkedIn profile, just have like your roommate take a photo of you up against like a wall or like outside of like your dorm or your house or anything like that. Like you don't have to spend money on like getting a headshot. Like there's tons of ways to have a nice picture on like LinkedIn. It's not a selfie. That's also not a professional headshot. So there's lots of leeway in between.
Also try and make sure it's somewhat up to date. Up until like a month ago, my LinkedIn profile picture was my senior year photo from high school, like the one that was in the yearbook. So a little old. I looked cute, but I'm not 17 anymore. So yeah, moving on.
Okay, so creating a profile banner photo, I think a lot of this it depends on what field you're going into, or, if you're like dabbling in other fields, like your banner photo, if you were a graphic designer or a photographer or, an animator, like comic artist, whatever, it would look a lot different compared to someone who is in a less, not creative field, because that's not the word for it, because we're all in creative fields here, but I guess something that is like a still photograph. So your profile picture is going to be a subtle element, but what do you think captures your personality or something that was important to you? So, people that went or are going to go on the LA trip, maybe you got a really good experience and you took a great photo and this was something you're really proud of. They usually take a tour of the Warner Brothers lot, and maybe you got a great shot and you want to make that your banner. That would be awesome. So it depends on, your personality and what you want to portray. Oh, and then so if you are just starting out and you haven't had those experiences yet, you are welcome to find something that is, for now, that is not necessarily plain, but not distracting. Something that like adds some sort of value to your profile, but not something that's like, wow, that doesn't really have anything to do with, their career path. Just something subtle. You could find that on Pexels or Unsplash. All right, and then creating a profile headline. So when people see, when people search for you, or when they see you on potential people to connect with, right under your profile name, this is what shows up. So this also depends on what you want out of LinkedIn. So some people put, their previous internships or the internships that they're at right now, or some people will go right out and say, I'm looking for an internship. Because a lot of like professionals on LinkedIn are looking quickly, and if they see that could, cause them to click on your profile more quickly rather than, mulling it over first. They know that you're looking for an internship, so they're going to click on you. But also some people add like some of their like personality traits or things like that. really, it's whatever you want out of LinkedIn. So if you're just looking to connect, or if you're looking for a job, it's going to look different.
So now for the summary part. So like we've been saying, the summary is also going to look different depending on like maybe what your major is and things like that, like what you're interested in. So like starting out with your mission, maybe you could write down like your major, your minor, like if you're in the Kelley School of Business or in the media school. You could also think about adding something like of who you are, like what makes you you, maybe like what you do outside of school, any fun facts, or just anything that makes you stand out and unique. You could also think about your background. So obviously we all had like different upbringings. Maybe you had to go through something, like we all have different stories, but it makes you you. You could also add in your achievements and specialties. So like, for example, in Elise, you know, she's really creative and she works a lot with editing and creating graphics. So when you look at her LinkedIn, she has like all of that written down, and it shows like what she's done and what she likes doing because it's something fun for her. And then so you could end with a call to action. When I was looking at Amy's LinkedIn, I told her I really liked how she ended it by saying what she wants to do after graduation, like specifically like in the job, like in her field, what she wants to do. So that was really nice. And then don't be afraid to like kind of show off and like add in like your links to maybe your YouTube or your blog or an Instagram or anything that you think shows who you are and shows like maybe your creativity, or if you have a business profile, anything like that, you can go ahead and add that onto there. So yeah.
All right, so inputting your experience, this is kind of like in my eyes, the way I see my LinkedIn profile is like, this is like the beef of my profile. And of course, there's lots of different ways to input your experience, but this kind of gives the best scope of what your experiences are, anything you've done. So basically, you can put in anything here, really. Like it could be, let's say you're going into, I want to go into management. But I have like, I was the president of Best Buddies at my high school. I still have that on there just because you never know what kind of interests you might share with people who are looking at your LinkedIn profile. So even when you're inputting experience and you're like, oh, I worked at like American Eagle in high school, I don't think that's really necessary to put on my LinkedIn, but go ahead and put it anyway, just because there's skills that you get from working in retail, working at a restaurant, working in lots of different things that aren't necessarily what you're going to go into in a job, but you get like transferable skills. So I always say like whenever I finish an experience or like I just do something, I always put it on my LinkedIn just because it never hurts to have it there. And there's a couple different ways you can kind of go about inputting your experience. I have lots of friends who just put, this was my title, this is where I work, that's for how long I worked there, and that's it. I personally like to talk a little bit about that role and what I did in that role and like specific things that I did or skills that I gained, just because saying you're like a social media manager can mean a lot of different things. Like, are you creating the posts? Are you posting other things that people have made for you? How many accounts are you running? How many followers those accounts have? And I feel like there's like a lot of ambiguity when you just put the business title or like your job title. So I always like to kind of summarize things. It doesn't have to be super long. I kind of take the format of my resume. Sometimes I just like, it's pretty much copy and paste from my resume to my LinkedIn. And yeah, it's kind of just like a quick glimpse into that experience. Another great thing about LinkedIn is you can actually link to media from an experience. So we can, not to like flex my LinkedIn, I love my LinkedIn, but I'll show you guys just to get a better feel of like what I'm talking about. This is my LinkedIn. Wow. But if you scroll a little bit, I believe, so right here, so for my internship that I have right now, it's just a development internship where like if someone who's working in the industry is looking at my profile, they're probably going to know what a development intern does, but it looks a little different at each company. So I like to say quickly what I do at Smokehouse, and that's it. But for iOS TV, creative content director is a little bit less specific. It's a very general term. So I like to kind of go into more detail here. And I also link to episodes that I've produced, just because I think that's a really nice thing to be like, oh, like, sure, I produced these shows, but what actually are these shows? What do they look like? Let's see like what she's actually done. And same kind of thing if Annalise links to graphics that she's made for certain positions, or if you make a poster for something, or if you're a social media manager, feel free to link to those accounts, link to a post you made, a story you made. If you did something for like a class and you had to like make like a marketing pitch, feel free to attach that as a file so people can kind of actually see what you've worked on. I think that's super nice. And there's a cool feature too when you're inputting experience is if you input an experience at the same company or at the same organization, it'll kind of do like little like progression of like, oh, Amy went from being, I think I have 2 more in here, my goodness. So you can see that I have tons of different roles that I've had in iOS TV before. I went from being a camera operator, and then I floor directed, then I produced, and then I was creative content director. So that's always a nice way too to show growth, to show that you've been with an organization for a longer period of time. So honestly, it's up to you. If you can't tell, I'm a chatty person. So I kind of like to reflect that in my LinkedIn, and I like to talk about each experience. But for some experiences, I don't really have a lot to say, so I can kind of zoom past those. But that's kind of what mine looks like. Everyone's is gonna look different. That's totally fine. So if you have other things you want to link to, totally do that. If you want to be more concise, if you're not a chatty person like I am, don't feel like you have to go on and on and on about when you worked at American Eagle. That's totally fine too. Yeah, it's kind of it for inputting experiences.
Yeah, so then once you have your profile all reflecting you, maybe almost there, it's always, LinkedIn has that aspect of like who you are, but then there's the other side where you can look for a job, which can, I don't know, I've used this feature, and a lot of the times I just go down a rabbit hole and just kind of spiral through it. But it's an interesting feature in that it's a great tool to use when you're looking for an internship or a job. It's a really good starting point. We talked about it, the execs, and there's kind of some debate behind it whether you should use it to apply places or not. We are kind of recommending not to. Of course you can, but it's a lot better to actually go to the site, get some extra research in, and reach out that way. We feel like that's a stronger connection versus just the amount of like people who use the easy apply feature. But another interesting thing about the job search is you can look up alum who work there at companies, and you can reach out to them, and you can send them a message and be like, hey, like, I am interested in this. Can we schedule a time to talk? I mean, that's later down the road, but at least try and connect with them, and that would definitely help your chances of getting that position or whatever you're looking for. But also, this is a good thing if you're confused with what you want to do. This is a great way to look at what positions are even out in the media industry or other industries. You can see what a job title is and what that entails and what would be expected of it. You can then go from there and look at other people who have that position and maybe reach out and ask if you could chat and ask what their day-to-day looks like, see if that's a fit for you. Maybe shadow. I mean, I don't know what that would really look like virtual, but it would definitely be an interesting conversation with somebody. So that's kind of the whole thing. And if you haven't looked at their job search feature, I highly recommend it. It's just kind of fun to look around. And then that kind of goes hand in hand with networking on LinkedIn. A little piece of warning is you can't send over 100 connections on a day, because they will stop you and they will disable your account for like a hot minute. So I've known some people who do this, and it's unfortunate, but you get it back, so it's fine. Just like, definitely some days I've been where I'm like, oh, I'm on LinkedIn, like I need to connect with people, and then you just like lose count. Just like maybe take a break if you think it's been a lot that day. But I don't know, that could just be a me thing. But also, if you don't immediately know them, it's always nice when you hit connect, you can send a connection note. It's a very small note. Like, you can't send a whole email or paragraph like saying why you like them or you want to connect. It's more just like, hey, and this is great with an IU alum. You could be like, hey, I'm a Hoosier too, like just looking to connect, and maybe like you have a few questions or you're curious about their position. Just very simple things, or thanking them for connecting because they'll get the message. It's just, sometimes you can send connection invites to a lot of people and they won't respond. So if you spend the extra time adding a note, that can increase your chances of connecting with them. But also if you have mutual connections, then you're more likely to connect. And yeah, just a general rule of thumb is people like to talk about themselves and their experiences. So if you can get them to do that, it's always a better chance.
Yay, breakout rooms, everyone's favorite. We're only gonna do 2 rooms just because there's not a huge number of us here. But basically for breakout rooms, like I know sometimes like sitting through this presentation, you might be like, okay, yeah, like I need a profile picture. Like, okay, yeah, like I should do this, this, and this. But it's kind of nice just to like talk through things with people sometimes and just get a better perspective of like what other people are doing on their LinkedIn. Because lots of times like I'll see something that my friends do on LinkedIn and I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. I should do that with my LinkedIn profile. And it's also kind of nice too, just to like talk to other people. So like if you feel overwhelmed, like if you don't have 500 plus connections, that's totally fine. Like most people at our age probably don't have 500 plus connections because like we're still young in our careers, and like that's totally fine. So we're just gonna talk like really briefly just like about LinkedIn, what did you guys think about it, how you feel about your own profiles, giving tips to one another about maybe how to like improve your profiles, really anything like that. So I'm gonna open up breakout rooms and we're just gonna have a quick little chat.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Do you guys happen to know on LinkedIn what it means when it's like next to someone's profile and it says like first, second, third?
Yeah. So like your first.
Hey.
Hey.
All right, just waiting for everybody to get put in the room. All right, I think.
Yeah, I feel like that's it.
Okay. It's good to see everybody's faces. Very nice. Thank you for turning on your cameras. You didn't have to do that for me. So mainly what we wanted to talk about in the breakout rooms was just what your profile looks like now or what you're looking to do. If you have any specific questions, maybe not, like I said, we're not experts, but, if you would like some guidance or things like that. So does everyone have a LinkedIn right now? I didn't have one until like 2 months ago, so it's totally fine. No shame in not having one yet. But so have you, those of you who don't have one, have you been looking to get one in the near future, or were you just waiting to get experience? What were you waiting on?
I'll say I was just kind of waiting to get experience, but I also just have never kind of thought about it until I saw that you guys were doing a workshop on it. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Lily, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I am probably gonna make mine like either tonight or tomorrow, actually.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the most important thing is to just start it. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's always a work in progress. Like, just get your name on there and maybe start looking around so you're more familiar with it. But yeah.
Can I throw like a little tip thing that I like just found out about like 2 weeks ago, possibly?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. I don't want to like step on your guys' toes or anything, but like
Oh,
my
no.
roommate showed me and I was like super excited about it. So there's this like website called Canva that like I had thought was like for like I've seen people use it for like presentations and stuff. But, like it's you can make like a free account and whatever on it. But when you go into like it has like different like graphics and stuff like that that you can use. And there's actually a section for LinkedIn banners. So I like went on that and like literally I just like made mine actually I like literally just like made mine so like I changed my background and then you can put like type on it. So I had to set like PR, marketing, and social media. And then like so when people are like looking at it, then I was like, okay, cool. They know like exactly what I'm interested in. They know exactly what kinds of like things I'm looking for. And yeah, my roommate, she's the one who showed me about it. She said she switches hers like every 2 or 3 weeks, just like whenever she gets bored, she just goes and like makes a new one. So yeah, it's super easy. It took me like 10 minutes. So little plug there for Canva.
I don't think I've ever heard of Canva being used for anything other than presentations. But then again, I'm not super familiar with the app. That's cool.
Yeah, I never really used it before. And she was like, so yeah, you guys agree. It looks like our canvas, but it's like yes.
Okay. For those of you who do have LinkedIn's, so how do you go about like structuring your profile for now? And is there anything that you want to change about that? Anyone?
I'll say I had to make mine in high school for a business class. And so pretty much all of it still is activities from high school or jobs that I had when I was like much younger. But I don't feel like I have a ton of experience yet to add to it. So I'm kind of confused, like how far back do you leave stuff on? Or like, will it look bad if you delete like a lot of the stuff you did in high school, like your past jobs from like 2014? How much do you keep on there?
I mean, personally, I think it's really up to you and like how valuable you think those experiences are. If you learned a lot from those and that's something you would talk about, or like, I don't know, I keep my serving job from high school on there because I feel like that's a valuable experience, and I'm sure other people also do that and value people who work in the restaurant business. So I don't really think there's like a cutoff date. It's really just like if you still relate and feel that experience, then I would keep that on there. And you don't even have to really describe what you did. If it's not a recent experience, most people probably won't make it down that far if you keep adding to it. But just like keep it on there. There's no shame in that, I don't think.
And if you did want to delete it at some point, you could always, keep adding as you get experiences. You could keep adding them and then just delete some of the ones that are, that you might think is not a super valuable experience later on. Just so for now you have something to fill out your profile, but you can delete and input more valuable experiences as you come across them. I say because I have some things that aren't because I'm currently still in development on my profile, but there are some things that seem to be, have nothing to do with it. Like I worked at a preschool for like 2 years, and that might seem irrelevant, but considering that I want to go into children's television, that is a good thing for me to have. So it's something, sometimes you want to keep it on there because you don't know where it might lead you later. So someone could be like, hey, I was a lifeguard in high school too. Like, and that could get you somewhere, whatever.
I was just laughing because that's literally like one of the main jobs that I'm questioning if I should get rid of is lifeguard.
Oh no, I would keep that one. That's a life skill.
Well, cool. It looks like we're gonna, I don't know, it says 0 time on mine for the breakout room, so I don't know if we're gonna get sent back. Maybe not. Is there any other like questions that people have or comments?
So should I put like a team captain on mine from high school?
Yeah.
I would. That's a leadership role, so I feel like that's a good, shows leadership from an early age.
Mhm. Well, cool.
All right.
Has anyone just out of curiosity used the job feature at all to like look yet? Or I know it's probably super early for a lot of you.
I used it like a little bit, but it's more of just like because it like when I Google like I'll Google like L'Oreal internship or something, and then the LinkedIn thing is what comes up.
Yeah.
So like I'll kind of use it, but I usually do what you guys said and I like apply through the actual site.
Yeah.
Yes. Highly recommend that.
I'm just always so afraid they're not gonna get the application, and like it's probably just me being paranoid, but like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like
We were thinking that you don't, like they actually don't, and they have to fill a quota for LinkedIn, so they just kind of ignore them. That's conspiracy though, so don't
I
follow.
did have a professor who he teaches one of the LA courses, and then usually in the spring he comes back for like a weekend and he teaches a weekend class. So I took his weekend class, and he told us I don't know if you've ever met Barry Snyder, but he's quite the interesting guy. He's very like a chaotic good. But anyway, so he was yelling at us in an energetic way to not apply for because he is a business owner and in the media industry, and he's like, do not apply through LinkedIn. I promise you, we don't fucking look them. Sorry for the words, but that's what he said verbatim. But I think that also to go to the site and apply through there shows that you care a little bit more than easy apply, that you want it more, that you are more interested in someone who just was like, click, I'm sending my resume. And you're more likely to get more interaction that way anyway. So, straight from the horse's mouth. We love a good breakout room. I saw 3 people eat as soon as Amy said breakout room.
Yeah.
Blame them. But
Thank you guys for doing this, because like I've just been sitting here like looking at my profile and I've learned so much more that like I didn't even know you could do, and it's very great. Now I just need to sit down for like a few hours and do it all. But
Yeah, and you also don't even have to sit down for a few hours. Like maybe just have a goal of taking a profile picture, and then because it can be really hard to like step away, I guess.
I will say, did anyone miss our headshot event and they don't have a headshot right now? So I will send that resource in the GroupMe. I found another headshot event. It's not put on by WiM, but it's through the media school. So that's another, I think it's next week. So that's another opportunity. Or, if you're like, you know what, it's a good picture, but I want like one, I just want a variety so I can change it up every once in a while. I'll send that in the GroupMe later tonight.
Okay, that's a good point. Amy said to wrap it up, so if we could all leave the breakout room and join the regular room, not like leave the whole meeting.
Oh, I thought we were going to be extracted.
I thought so too, but we didn't do that. So just hit leave breakout room, please.
All right, psych.
All right, I believe everyone is back. So I hope you all got something out of your breakout room, got to talk a little bit more about LinkedIn, and got to know some other members. I love breakout rooms, they're always fun. But we were talking about it in our breakout room, but now that you know all about LinkedIn and maybe you're starting to build your profile and you're wondering how to start building your network, well, super convenient because Women in Media has a LinkedIn group. That's the QR code to join it. You do have to request to be in it, but I'll accept your request in like a hot minute. And this is a great way if you only have like 10 connections and you want to start building up your network. Go through and connect with everyone in WiM, and that's a great starting point because you're all at Indiana. You might not all be in media school, but you're all students here. You're all in the same organization, and that's already something to like start off with. So this is a great first step. Or even if you're well-developed profile and you have that, you can still connect with people because it's still, again, fun to see what everyone in the organization is doing. And this is usually, I've been linking this a lot in our weekly emails. But yeah, feel free to scan that, get connected with us. And we don't post a ton in there yet, but maybe in a little bit we can start posting in our little group. That could be fun. But I believe, okay, so that's kind of it. So we are taking a bit of a break for WiM, just because next Thursday, it's right before Thanksgiving. I don't know if anyone's traveling home. I usually travel on that Thursday. And just to kind of give everyone like a breather to go home, get ready, pack, do whatever you need to do. So we won't be having a meeting until the Thursday after Thanksgiving, which is December 3rd. And that is going to be our final meeting for the semester, to kind of wrap things up early, let you guys take your time to think about finals, get ready for the holidays with your families, whatever you're doing. But kind of on like the same token of what we've been talking about all night, we also want to use this meeting on December 3rd to kind of just like hype yourselves up for the semester that we've had. I know, especially this semester, it's been really hard for a lot of people, but we all made it through, which is awesome. And if you worked on a project, you did a photo series, you designed something, you wrote an article, anything like that you are really, really proud of and you want to share with other people, this is a great place to do it. I know it takes a lot to go onto LinkedIn and be like, I did this really cool thing, check it out here. That's really formal. And if you're not comfortable doing that, that's 100% fine. But you guys should be confident in the work you're doing. You should be proud of it. And it's great to kind of show off something and be like, I made this and I want other people to see how great it is. So if you have something like that, or you want to throw together a little portfolio that you'd like to share on December 3rd, we wanted to give you a quick heads up to kind of share something. And if you don't want to share something, that's totally fine too. But just to kind of have a platform to hype yourself up, because even if it's just your first semester in the media school at Indiana, that's totally fine. You've done cool stuff already. I know my first semester, my like main thing was like my drawn storyboard for C223. And that was an accomplishment because that took me a long time and I was proud of it. So no matter what it is, even if you're a senior and it's like your like big capstone film project, share that with us too. But we'll give you more information as this comes up, but start thinking about, it's a nice way too to kind of think about your semester and reflect on the cool things that you've done. So we'll do stuff like that. And also maybe we'll make it holiday themed. Maybe everyone will be encouraged to like, bring some like holiday cookies. That could be fun. But yeah, that is it for this evening. If anyone wants to hang out for a sec and you have any other questions about LinkedIn you want to chat about, that's totally cool. If you have any other things, that's fine. We'll hang for a sec. But if not, thanks for coming. I hope you got something out of the meeting. You learned a little bit about LinkedIn. You feel a little bit more confident now, connecting with people, looking for jobs. But yeah, that's it, everyone. Have a lovely Thursday evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.